So it looks like we're looking at a hand without a white source. It's one of the flaws with playing a lot of colorless lands, but we're going to take a mulligan here. And we're going to mulligan to 5. So the 5 isn't great, but we're going to have to keep it and look for a white source. Blade Splicer is not a white source. And so we are officially on 5 cards without a white source. But we'll see what we can do. It's not over yet, but we're definitely hurting. Opponent's leading on Temple of Silence. And now we're seeing a plane, so not exactly sure what we're playing against. There's a Tide Hollow Sculler, which we could just actually... Some people here, because they think that the 5-card hand isn't good enough, would concede in response to stop from revealing what we're playing, but we're not going to do that. We still have a shot here, even if it's slim. We can draw the planes, get a Thalia into play, and we got some game there. Alright, still looking for that white source, but it's coming, right? That's always the attitude. It's always on top, right? So, Duress. Alright, there goes our sword. So, trading 1 for 1 is pretty good when you're up against only 5 cards. It looks like our opponent's playing black-white tokens, as we see Gather the Townsfolk. So we'll keep that information and hopefully be able to use it to our advantage in later games. There's Lingering Souls. And so, yeah. Alright, next game. So, I actually like Sundering Growth a reasonable amount, because these types of decks can have cards like Honor of the Pure or Bitter Blossom. So we'll board in Sundering Growth. I also like Mirran Crusader, as the pro-black can be important. Spot removal is okay against them. It's not amazing. Judge's Familiar isn't particularly impressive. I like the idea of Revelark and potentially this Spellskite, so we need some cuts here. I think we can afford to cut Kitchen Finks, and although maybe we don't want to cut Finks, maybe we just want to shave on Leonin Arbiters and potentially also Aven Mind Sensor. But yeah, I like just shaving the Arbiters. Because we're playing against a 2-color mana base. We could, yeah. Alright, let's give this a shot. Alright. We have a Vial to get things going, and then Sundering Growth hopefully will be good. We have Blade Splicer to go with Sundering Growth, which is a bit of a combo there. Get the Blade Splicer into play, then we can proliferate and make another Golem. So we'll see if we can make that one happen. But hopefully our own Thalia doesn't prove to be a big liability this game. We drew another Aether Vial, so I kind of like, rather than playing the Thalia here, we could just play this Aether Vial. Let's just play the Thalia. Get aggressive. We can play the Aether Vial next turn if we want to. And this stops our opponent from playing something like a Bitter Blossom this turn. Angel of Jubilation, so it looks like we are going to be relying on this Aether Vial to cast some of our spells. And unfortunately, as of right now, we cannot cast our own Sundering Growth. But hopefully that'll change if we need to cast the growth. And so yeah, there's Intangible Virtue, one of the targets for Sundering Growth. So we don't need to cast the growth just yet. And we're going to make that Blade Splicer first. And then hopefully get the value there. We just drew Spellskite, which is worth just jamming into play. And so our spot is pretty good here. But still don't know a lot of the contents of our opponent's hand. But we are going to put this Blade Splicer into play. And the Spellskite basically protects our entire board. We're going to be able to play this Angel of Jubilation here. So even without the Sundering Growth, we're in a pretty commanding position. So yeah, I actually like attacking with everything here. And then just going ahead and putting the Angel into play. And our opponent does have Raise the Alarm. I don't know that we're terribly worried about that. So, yeah, we're just going to put the Angel of Jubilation into play. And our opponent does have some decent blocks, but we also have Path to Exile. So, our opponent can double block Thalia. This ends up working out perfectly for us. We can just path one of the tokens. And yeah, I mean, unless our opponent has a big spell or like a board sweeper, things are looking good. Let's see what this is going to be here. Yeah, we ended up putting the Angel into play before blocks, and it ended up actually helping us. And I think our opponent's going to double block the Thalia either way there. So, yeah, we're gonna bump this Aether Vial up to 3 counters, and then keep the other vial on 4. So now we can put in the Displacer if we want to, and now we can finally cast the Sundering Growth. So, in a fantastic spot here. Let's see how our opponent blocks, or if... Okay, there's Raise the Alarm, but since we have the Sundering Growth, our opponent's just going to end up getting blown out here. We'll see how they choose to block. But most likely, it is going to end up being a blowout. Yeah, so our opponent can't do anything, and this should just be the game. Yep, okay. Next game. 2 pretty uneventful games, so hopefully we'll have a little bit better of a third one. We saw Raise the Alarm and Gather the Townsfolk. So do we want to really change things up significantly here? The Arbiters still seem kind of marginal. Vial was good. I don't think we want to board out Aether Vial. Judge's Familiar is a card we could consider boarding out. Path to Exile is also a card we could consider boarding out because we are playing against tokens. Yeah, I mean, the familiar is reasonable. We can try boarding in familiars for paths. And see how this goes. The reason why I do like doing it here is just to be able to counter the gatherers and the raises and the lingering souls and all that stuff we already saw. But we're going to have to mulligan this one. It's a 1-land hand. So our 6 is a little bit better. The bottom this plains. We have the growth, which basically was the backbreaking card in Game 2. Hopefully it'll be the same in Game 3. And we have the option here between Mutavault and the growth. I think I prefer playing the Mutavault. We haven't seen Bitter Blossom yet. It could be that our opponent does have it in their deck, but the attack for 2 is pretty relevant on our next turn. Or if our opponent is just passing, we may just want to pass because we've seen Raise the Alarm. So yeah, we're just going to pass here. And we still want this Mutavault in play to potentially be able to block the soldiers. Although, if our opponent plays Intangible Virtue, that would be pretty good. So, our opponent's actually attacking anyways into the Mutavault. So, let's consider the potential removal spells we're up against. It could be that our opponent has something like Doomblade or Dismember, but this could also just be Path. I kind of want to just call our opponent's bluff. If it's Path, we're not really upset by it. It's go for the throat, so yes, our Mutavault is gone, but we'll live to see another day. And just play the plains. We have Sundering Growth available here. It does set us back, that go for the throat, a little bit, because we can't play Blaze Placer or Mirror Crusader, but we are going to be able to deploy those this next turn, and we don't have to worry about the go for the throat, so the Mirror Crusader is a pretty solid play here. Just because it avoids the black removal. It could be that our opponent has Path. Okay, so yeah, there's the Path. But we're not really too happy about the Mutavault dying. It just is going to take us longer to set up. But we can set up potentially Blade Splicer plus Sundering Growth. Although this Lingering Souls could definitely be a problem for us. Although, interestingly, our opponent has just passed the turn here. So, we have multiple Judges Familiars. So we might as well start deploying those. And hope to set up Revelark. And the Seagate Wreckage could potentially help draw us some cards later. So, it's kind of, yeah, a little funky that Lingering Souls wasn't cast with Flashback. Wasn't flashback the previous turn, I should say. And I think we can just go ahead and trade off the Judges Familiars. Just because we have Revelark to potentially bring these familiars back if our opponent has a removal spell. And we probably want to get this Revelark into play as soon as possible. So, once again, our opponent isn't flashing back the Lingering Souls. So, yeah, let's just go ahead and attack with both of our creatures. We want the Blade Splicer to die because we have Revelark in hand. And it is going to die to a Go for the Throat. And now we can just simply hard cast the Revelark. And this is going to be pretty annoying for our opponent to deal with, because if this does die, we can get back Blade Splicer plus Judge's Familiar. And so now it looks like our opponent may be taking the time to flash back both of the Lingering Souls. So bit weird sequencing, but from our opponent it looks like they were holding up Go for the Throat the whole time. So we can just hold this Revelark back actually and just attack with the Golem. And if our opponent wants to trade off 3 spirits for the Golem, that's just fine. And now we can just go ahead and deploy this Blade Splicer with Sundering Growth available. And one interesting thing here is that we could fire off the Sundering Growth on one of our own creatures just to be able to get it out of our hand. It's probably not the best line, but we'll see. Maybe we want to do it, maybe we don't. Definitely going to block one of these spirits. So yeah, let's just go ahead and take a draw step here. Ooh, Restoration Angel. That is a very, very good draw here, because we can blink our own Revelark or the Blade Splicer, but more likely we'll want to blink the Revelark. So we can actually just get in there with the Blade Splicer. And we just want to basically cut down our opponent's creatures. And yeah, we're fine with just trading a Splicer for a Soldier. Let's see if our opponent does have a removal spell. So actually, now we might want to play the Sundering Growth out. And I actually like that play. It allows us to empty our hand a little bit, and we get to essentially net another Golem. So it's a bit of an unusual circumstance, but let's go ahead and do it. We are going to Sundering Growth our own Golem, and then proliferate the other one. And it helps get us hellbent for the Seagate Wreckage. So now next turn we'll be able to activate the Seagate. And when our opponent does attack with spirits, we can flash in the Restoration Angel for a nice blowout there. And I'd be pretty surprised if our opponent wants to keep playing after they see this Restoration Angel blinking this Revelark. Because the Revelark, when it flickers, we get to bring back basically double Blade Splicer. We could bring back Judge's Familiar, but it doesn't seem necessary. So yeah, just double Blade Splicer here. That's all. Just 2 more Blade Splicers for you. And just go ahead and eat a couple of these spirits. And our draw step was a Flicker Wisp. Why not? We'll just go ahead and Flicker Wisp out a token. We could have gone for the Revelark, but let's just go ahead for the untapped token, and yeah, that's the match. So